83. We're down to 48 right now. Yeah. Yes. Yep. All right, everyone. So welcome back from lunch. I got 101. Welcome back from lunch. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. As I think they said, there's still plenty of food out there. So if you get hungry with our last couple of speakers, by all means, go grab something, another plate, a drink. But thank you all for sticking around. I know lunchtime usually people start to depart, but we do have a afternoon full of great speakers and a panel coming up after our lunch sponsor, C5BDI, speaks a little bit. But again, they were I'm also C5BDI, we're our lunch sponsors. So Mark's going to talk a little bit about what we do, and then we're going to roll right into our panel, and then a couple more speakers. So Mark, I'm going to turn you on and we'll do a quick comment.
Testing. Okay, is that better? No, I'm going to stand next to it. Am I echoing? All right, well, thanks everybody for sticking around after lunch. First and foremost, I want to thank Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge for hosting this and for all the government customers who have come in town for this. Also, thanks to Eileen 757 Collab, as well as Tina here, who's really helped put on a good event. Also, big thank you to all the government speakers who have come in, as well as the industry participants that are here today as well. So C5BDI, who are we? We're an independent consulting firm. We sit in between government and industry, and our core focus is working on the education, the navigation, and the empowerment of government and industry to do things such as tech insertion, tech scouting, business development, strategy, and contract vehicle support. And so that's really where we focus. Going back to Dr. Stark's opening comments, you mentioned kind of the mission of the tech bridges, and that's really where C5BDI is aligned to, both with the tech bridges, a lot of the Army modernization priorities, and the President's National Defense Strategy and the BCI as well. Our team, we're made up of about we've got a over 90% total veteran workforce. And we're also a charitable organization. So since our inception, we've given back to the community about $730,000 in donations, as well as partnered with a company, a nonprofit organization called Gov't, which has donated over 7,500 pounds of food to food banks and other charities. All right, you can go to the next slide. So what do we do? So since 2018, we've been hyper-focused on all things government innovation and acquisition. So we've supported over 40, between 40 and 50 SBIR phase 3s, as well as just shy of 15 other transaction authorities. And so you've heard a lot of conversation from Jason earlier, and Scott mentioned it as well earlier, that phase 3 has a lot of myths, misnomers, and a lot of customers, like Scott said, don't really understand it in the acquisition community or the program community. And so that's really where we focus, is on helping to educate, navigate, and empower those customers to take things to the next level and really drive return on investment for the SBIR program. And so with those 40 to 50 phase 3s, with those just shy of 15 other transaction authority contracts that we've supported, the total contracting actions on those contracts is over 175. And so that's 175 unique customers that are getting access to innovative companies and services and products through the phase 3s and OTAs that we've supported. Also, since the Air Force was talking about the TACFI and STRATFI, that is something we've supported multiple STRATFI awardees, we've supported multiple TACFI awardees. So while I'll say the phase 3 is where we live and breathe, we do operate in those phase 1 and 2 so that you can get to the phase 3 as well as the lead-ins with the TAC buy and strat buy. All right, no, one slide back. So in terms of our position, so we as a company, C5 BDI has no federal government contract, so it gives us a unique perspective. We get to kind of complain about both sides. We get to complain about industry, we get to complain about government, to the other side. So with government, some examples of what we've done is some of the support with the Tech Bridge here, for tech scouting and working on events like this. We've also worked with consecutive DASAPs, that's the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Procurement. We've worked with them on strategy and all things innovation. And then we've also been invited and have spoken at the National Contract Management Association World Congress event, where we talk about the different case studies, use cases for the different kind of contract mechanisms that we employ. Next slide. All right, next couple slides, you can just breeze through them real quick. I'm not really going to even talk to them. So they're about the what a phase 3 is, what an OTA is, and what some of the features and benefits are. So you guys can read all of those when you get this brief later on. If you want to go to slide 6, we've got a lot of case studies, obviously, within the portfolio that we've supported. It covers a lot of different technology bases, a lot of different companies that we've supported in the construct of these. But one thing that I do want to say, and hopefully I don't offend anybody, but one disclaimer is that while we specialize in phase 3s and OTAs and those non-traditional contract actions, I do want to emphasize that they aren't right in every situation. So when a government customer is evaluating what the best procurement pathway is, they're the best person to determine what the right acquisition strategy is. And so while everybody in this room, I think Jason mentioned it earlier, you've got that end state in mind right from the beginning of when the topic's being published. Not everybody's going to make it to phase 3. It's not a rite of passage. And then when it comes to the government customers, depending on time of year, color of money, the work that's looking to be done, SBIR phase 3, OTAs, they might not be the right pathway for you. So, and again, on the rite of passage part, obviously everybody in here is looking for a phase 3. If you're on the industry side, that should be your goal. That's a derivative of the program where you want to drive the return on investment to the program. And so that's really what we're trying to empower. And so I've got some other notes here, but I'm going to stop just because we got finished lunch. We're getting ready for the panel. So I'm going to stop for questions.
So as a lead-in to the upcoming excellent panel, I was wondering, since your background and expertise you just talked about has to do with the phase 3s, what would you say from a company perspective is the biggest challenge to move from a SBIR phase 2 to phase 3? And what advice would you have to the people here and online?
Yeah, very good question. So the biggest challenge that I see is customer relationships, customer intimacy. So as a company, if you're looking to transition from a 1 to a 2 or 2 to a 3, you've got to have a really good relationship with your customer. You've got to know what they like, what they don't like, and you've got to be able to also answer the call on technology that backs up what they like and don't like. So I'd say that the relationship with the customer is a huge obstacle that a lot of companies don't really view as the problem. They focus on their technology and think that they've got the better mousetrap, and they focus on that. Whereas I say, no, focus on the relationship first.
All right, we need to do questions with the microphone so everybody online can enjoy your wisdom.
Hey, Mark, thanks for getting up here. What's driving you to OTAs versus other acquisition pathways? What are you seeing as a trend that where you're advising folks to go into a more of a prototype-driven effort versus a procurement-driven effort like a phase 3?
Yeah, for OTAs, obviously, there's been a lot of change since about 2018 timeframe, and then it was written into NDAA back in 2018, and then the language has strengthened over time since then. And so when it comes to OTA, there are production type OTAs now. So it's not just about prototyping now. There's the production. And then, depending on the different groups out there, obviously any warranted contracting officer has the ability to do an OTA. However, there are a lot of consortium management organizations that are out there that is their specialty, that's their focus. They're going to take a little bit of the funding. There's going to be a certain percentage that goes to them. But really, it comes down again to knowing what your customer wants as a company. Does your customer want a little bit more development? Do they want you to take a product, service, innovation that you have, and still apply more R&D in order to get it to the next level using their program dollars? And the program dollars that they have could be any color of money. So that's. Yeah, again, really, it starts with the customer and what they're looking for, and then kind of backing into the right contracting solution.
Other questions?
Can you speak specifically to the different types of OTAs and how you would help companies get engaged?
How to get engaged? Yeah,
So,
repeat, please.
So I was asking if you could go over the different types of OTAs, so like the production OTA, the prototype OTA, and how you would help companies engage with these.
Yeah, so in terms of the different types, again, some of the authorities, for OT have changed over time. And so now there's what's called follow-on production. And so it turns into a non-competitive contract action after you've completed the period of performance on the production OTA. And so again, looking at the color of money, or appropriation type that the customer has, the service or product that they're looking to innovate and turn into something better. We focus on that, and then figure out which type of OTA makes the most sense for that customer and that company. It can transition from a prototype OTA to a production OT as well. And so you can move that, and then again, for that production OTA, once you're done, if it's been advertised when they solicited the problem set to industry, they can award non-competitively to the firm that was awarded the OT.
Other questions? We do one more.
All right, thanks everybody.
Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Just a minute while we transition to this panel.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Will this interfere while I'm introducing? Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody enjoyed the lunch. Thank you again, C5BDI, for providing it, and thank you to 757 Co. We're going to kick the afternoon off after hearing from C5 BDI with 3 excellent panelists. They're going to be talking about different perspectives of about different aspects of SBIR programs and different funding from different agencies. So I'm going to ask each panelist to introduce themselves, talk about what command they're from, what program they manage or are in charge of, and also give a few opening remarks. And then we'll have a period of interactive questioning and discussion. So I believe we're going to start with Christy. Is that the plan? Who did you had an idea? Okay, Christy, why don't you go ahead and start? And each of you go ahead, take some time to talk about your programs, and then we'll have some interactive question and answering.
Is that better? Good. Hi, I'm Christy DePriest. I am the program manager for the NAVAIR SBIR STTR program. I will say that originally my colleague Petra Brandt-Hoover was supposed to be here, so her name is the one you'll see on the agenda. Petra works in our office. She is our Phase 3 team lead. So I'm going to do my best job to do a great Petra impression while I'm up here, because she is by far our expert on all things having to do with Phase 3 contracts. One of the things we do at NAVAIR is we have a dedicated workforce within our office, which Petra leads up, to help program offices and TPOCs and small businesses navigate the process of Phase 3 contracts. And we also have a dedicated contracting team that's all they do is SBIR Phase 3 contracts. And Petra works hand in hand with that office. So she is an excellent resource, which I will be happy to refer to if there's any questions that I can't answer, because she is the one who's in it day to day.
Jason Schroepfer, the NAVC SBIR STTR program manager. We operate pretty much the polar opposite of the way NAVAIR does it. And I am trying to emulate some of their best practices on the Phase 3 side. We do have dedicated staff that will work with the small businesses and the government side to help the process and educate both parties. As far as contracting goes, we typically contract through whatever program office is contemplating the purchase. They'll use their typical contracting pipeline. That's where a little bit of the issue comes in, is they're generally not as well versed on SBIR, so we have our work cut out for us educating them. And to kind of foot stomp what the previous speaker was talking about with the relationship building, it's very easy for companies to kind of get tunnel vision, especially small companies that are technologically focused, because they really love what they're doing, which is why we go to them in the first place. But it all boils down to getting to know your customer and talking to them as often as possible to kind of facilitate the eventual transition as early as you can. And then we can step in and offer training, education, advocacy. But that's about the extent of what I'm allowed to do in Phase 3.
Cool. Well, I'm Meg Stout. I am the SMT manager in IWS 5.0. So if you remember Jason's slides from this morning, he had this big, like 42% pie that IWS gets. And I think I'm the plurality of IWS. I may have a bigger portfolio than some of the other PEOs.
I think you have a bigger portfolio than some of the other sitcoms.
So I get the fun job of working with my technology people to come up with topics. And when we come up with our topics, we know where we want it to land up front. And part of the strategy throughout is which way will we commercialize this if it succeeds? What palm papers need to be written so that we get the additional money? And when I talk to industry, which I'm doing right now, by the way, I have 2 topics out there. We're the only 2 NSIN topics right now in the 24-2 solicitation. I tell the companies up front, one of your scores is commercialization. And obviously, we want you to have a really nice, nuanced plan for transitioning to our need. But I really want you to have a vision for how what you're developing for us could have other legs. Because I can only ever give you the money that Congress gives me. I cannot give you more. So if you really want to have an expansive future vision for your technology, have that vision and articulate it in your proposal. That sometimes is the differentiator in who we pick for our phase ones.
I would really love for Jason to elaborate a little bit. You know, very often government agencies are not so complimentary and we talk about how we do things better and things, but you just gave a really good compliment to NavAir about how they're doing things. I don't think you said the word better, but it was implied. So
was,
yeah. Excellent. But I think it's helpful to the small businesses and other folks here that are interested in small business funding for you to, maybe for you to elaborate, like how is NavAir's process better, and what do they need to know to apply for a SBIR, no matter which Navy agency or which government agency? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
I think the strength that NavAir has is in a dedicated workforce on the contracting side. Their teams, that's all they do is SBIR, so they're very familiar with, you know, structuring the contracts, with what are the rules and regulations. So they don't have to, you know, explain the sole source justification, and they understand the data rights and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's their biggest strength, is that they have people that specialize and focus just on SBIR contracting. We're a much larger and more geographically diverse SysCom, so finding that core team that's in one location to do that kind of work, it's just not feasible for the NAVC enterprise. Sometimes our contracting is done out of warfare centers. Sometimes it's done out of headquarters. We do use any authorities that we can, but it's spread out a lot more. So getting a hold of those folks is a little more challenging.
Meg, did you want to add anything to that as one of the largest portfolio managers?
I would say that every single company and topic is its own thing. Now, it's wonderful when like, for example, our crane contracts, the seaport contracts, I call them the McDonald's of contracting because dang, they're fast, they've got it, they've got a system. And so where we can come up with a common solution, we do that. But we meet with our companies every 6 months at least for an overview session. What are they doing? What's their progress been? Where we revisit what the transition is and what is the plan to get for that phase 3. So that's one of the things we always do because it's going to be unique to them. But my goodness, we can be on top of it. I got to switch you all out real quick.
All right, we're going to pause for just a moment and do some microphone switching. So I'm going to go ahead and ask my next question. You guys have a minute to noodle on it while we're swapping the mics. So I wonder if you guys could talk about if you each could provide one recommendation to the small business people interested in small business funding. What is the one recommendation? And you can't reuse what Mark already said. We know we need good customers. That's one of the reasons that the Mid-Atlantic and other tech bridges do these kind of events, is to provide opportunities for small businesses to have some one-on-one time with the powers that be that are so pivotal to these small business programs. So other than that, because Mark already gave the good one, pick one thing, and Christy gets to go first since the other two you already started. And what's the one thing that a small business can do to increase the odds of getting small business funding?
I would say one of the major things you can do is understand the timeline of technology integration for the platform that your technology is targeting. So it's not just knowing your customer and knowing who that is, but also understanding what the acquisition timeline is for that platform. A lot of things come down, frankly, to timing. The way the Navy upgrades aircraft, it is done in certain blocks. And if you miss a block upgrade, your software was not ready in time for that block upgrade, there's a good chance, regardless of how great your product was for the Navy, it might not make it into the next block. And unfortunately, you can have a very successful product that just ends up not going anywhere because the timeline wasn't there. And it's important for the company that your customers should understand that, the sponsors should understand that, but oftentimes our sponsors are getting ahead of themselves. They want to integrate everything as fast as possible and don't have a realistic understanding of how long the technology is going to take to develop and to test. So make sure that that is an iterative conversation that you are constantly having with your customer, is not only what platform do you see this transitioning to, but when, in what time frame, and can I actually meet that requirement?
I think my answer is going to sound very elementary, as close as I can. Okay. It may sound foolish, but read and follow the instructions. It really boils down to that. We see thousands of proposals a year, and a lot of times it'll come down to, you know, making a decision between different technologies. So we look for the easiest means of eliminating contenders. So something as stupid as overdoing your page count, or using the wrong font, or missing a deadline by literally 1 minute will get you kicked out. So yeah, again, it sounds very simple, but read the solicitation, read the instructions, and follow them to a T. And since I'm in a complimentary mood, I'll compliment Meg now too, because PEO IWS, they do things a little bit differently than my other portfolios, where they have a very, very good process of working with the companies that come onto the program. They do periodic program reviews more frequently and in more detail than some of my other portfolio managers. And that seems to help the companies quite a bit because they understand the process and the program from an earlier stage, so that they're able to kind of navigate it a little more efficiently.
Can you hear me? All right, good. One of the things that the small business can do, because you have a variable quality in the people who are going to be interacting with you from the government side. Some of them don't understand what you need to succeed. So help them to help you. One of the things we have at NAVC is we have tech warrant holders. I know at NAVAIR you have a matrixed organization as well. So from your standpoint, you can ask your TPOC, do we have a technology specialist or a program specialist who we could help get briefed on what we're doing? So even if they're not pushing that to you, you can be proactive and ask for the support. Now, don't call them every day, but you're adults. You know that interchange between too frequent and not frequent enough. So I would say own the fact that they're not just going to carry you and that you can help them to help you.
Excellent. So now that you've given a couple of comments, kind of the secret sauce of getting a SBIR, maybe each of you could, if it's applicable in your programs, I know it is in MAGs, you could give an example of a particular company that was able to successfully take their technology to win a SBIR phase 3, and what were their key ingredients or their secret sauce to getting that done.
Go first. All right. So one of the recent success stories that we've published is about Frontier Technologies, and they have delivered a prognostics health maintenance, health monitoring software set. And what I would say is one of the key parts of that success, which I see across a lot of SBIR successes, is that they built that technology on more than one topic. So it wasn't, very rarely is it just a single topic. We made a widget, the widget transitions to the platform, and it's that super clean, you know, line. That it happens, but it happens very rarely. Oftentimes what happens is there is a technology that is initially developed under an SBIR topic, and then it is further developed under another SBIR topic, and then maybe it's adapted for another customer under another SBIR topic, and eventually all, you know, it transitions. But it was if you look at when it actually started, it was more of like a 10-year process from the original topic and the original investment. And that was the case with Frontier Technology. They first responded to a topic that was about modeling PHM statistics, and then later on responded to a topic that was on doing data analysis that was extracted from the models. And so that's the type of thing that builds upon itself and eventually transitions to a customer. So don't think that just because you've already had one SBIR topic that you shouldn't be continuously applying for very similar topics and being able to use the same products that you've already developed to grow into a full capability.
I have two examples. One is a composite manufacturing company out of Nebraska, of all places. Pacific Engineering is the name of the company, and they started years ago. Their first SBIR topic was they were developing a composite material shower enclosure for submarines. And they have taken that technology and spun it into so many different areas, and they've gotten so many multiple phase threes. They are now currently working on replacing the VLS hatch covers on every ship in the fleet, just from expanding their initial topic and just thinking outside the box a little bit for different applications that they can apply the same technology to. The other one I'll mention is a company out of Boston called Beacon Interactive. This company has only won, I think, 4 SBIR topics in their entire lifetime, but they've spun it into 9 different phase threes just by, again, using a similar model. They started, anybody that's ever done maintenance on a ship understands how hard and convoluted the old tagout process was. It was all, paper logs and everything. So they automated the tagout process. They called it e-tagout. That has expanded into a lot of other maintenance activities where they just automated the process. So now, instead of doing all of the paperwork and running it back and forth by hand to get signatures, you do it all on a tablet, on an iPad, digital routing, speeds everything up. They are now on every single flight line in the Air Force. And now they're starting to do similar process coming back to the Navy in the fleet, just for automating a complex paperwork problem.
I'm going to give 3 mini examples, but I'll start off. There was once some experiment or observation where a pottery teacher had 2 classes, and to one he said, I want you to make the best pot possible. And to the other class he said, I want you to make as many pots as you possibly can. And at the end, comparing the people who were focused on the perfect versus the people who were just trying to churn them out, the pots of the people who were churning them out were so much better than their supposedly focused on quality pots. From that standpoint, you know what your business is, you know what your strength is. Look for topics that don't even have to exactly align with what you want, but are tangential. You're a small business, that's gold. Find things that are somehow related to what you care about. Find partners who can complete what you don't bring, and propose, propose, propose. So the 3 things I'm going to talk about: when I was a young person, I remember we wanted to go to a composite group because of things we wanted to do. It was Siemens Composite as opposed to PE. I've also worked with them, but PEI. But we ended up reaching out to a SOCOM topic from the 90s. I was really young, but it was still at least a 10-year-old topic because it was a phase 1 and we could get a phase 2 reach back to go do that. Break. We've got the Davidson window, which if you're not familiar with that, that was Admiral Davidson back in 2021, March 7th, who said, I think in 7 years, China's going to try to grab Taiwan, which may or may not happen, but still. So there's a lot of buzz in the military about what happens if the Davidson window thing happens. And one of the needs that came up was Link 16. We're going to be out there. All these comms are going to be flying around. Not everybody has the same Link 16. The message is, oh my gosh, how are we going to deal with that situation? And we're like, we know a company who can do that, IDT. IDT now has gotten too big. They're more than 500 million that they've gotten from government for things, so they no longer qualify for certain programs. But we said, we want to get to IDT. This topic. Oh, dang it. I gave away my phase 2 to somebody else. This topic. What do you mean they already got 2 phase 2s that I didn't know about? This topic. I think it was finally on the 4th or 5th topic down that we found a phase 1 that nobody had picked up. The SBIR people or NIWIC people who owned it didn't even know they had it. We said, could we please have it, please? And they're like, okay. So that's something that's going to be starting here pretty soon. And then the third example along that line, my new boss came in, staff meeting. He said, I just got briefed by this company. Oh my gosh, we need to get them under contract. Which I had about 5 or 10 minutes of, or seconds, excuse me, of going, I've got so many things and you're going to jump them to the front of the queue. But I got on my computer, I got to my Navy SBIR.com website. I did the search on the company. I found a phase 1. It happened to be an IWS phase 1. I emailed Douglas Marker and I said, hey, Douglas, I know you're not poor right now. Is there any possibility I could get a phase 2 reach back to this company on this topic? And so before the end of the staff meeting, I had the answer. Yeah, tentatively, get me all of the documents. So I was able to tell my new boss, sir, $2 million. We're working the contract now in less than an hour. So go after those phase 1s. Be those pottery people who are proposing, and you'll be getting those phase 1s over time. And please don't call us and say, I have a phase 1, so for the good of the universe and DOD, you must fund me. I didn't just say that because someone I thought was an adult actually did that to me once. But when you're developing and you're at events like this and somebody's like, wow, that's really cool. You say, by the way, we have phase 1 data rights. And so you can get to us with a phase 3 contract. They will love you.
So Meg, you kind of touched on this, but one of the other things that we talk about when we're thinking about small business funding is to help small businesses and those interested in this. What would each of you say are some common misconceptions that small businesses tend to have, or misunderstandings that sometimes keep them from getting being successful in small business funding opportunities?
I would say that it is that your original customer is your only customer, that whoever you were originally developing the technology for, that you have to stay in that lane and stay with that platform. As Meg was talking about, pulling a topic over from SOCOM, I think, or from another service, that just because you originally proposed on an Army or a NAVC or NAVWAR phase 1 doesn't mean you can't come to NAVAIR if there's applicability there and find a customer for that technology at NAVAIR. And that's one of the great things about the SBIR program, is the fact that we are able to leverage each other's investments. And oftentimes that is one of the fastest ways to do it as well, rather than going through the process of putting out a topic and going through the phase 1, phase 2. Oftentimes, if we're looking to integrate something faster, we do want to go out and look and see, okay, what's already been done, and is it faster for us just to leverage a previous SBIR investment?
Yep, we do that quite a bit. So yeah, that's a great point. I think that as a small business, you are definitely your own best advocate. So I would advise not to take the government's word for it in certain cases. Do the homework, read the policy directive, because there is a big misconception that the sole source justification and data rights are somehow linked. They're not. We can do phase 3 because the law says that we can do it sole source. In fact, we're supposed to. It's not just we can, that should be the first stop. And a lot of times acquisition folks, contracts folks, whoever you're talking to, whoever your end customer is they're like, I don't want to do that because you guys own the data rights. I want the rights. So they use that as kind of a justification for not doing sole source awards. So take the time to, like I said earlier, the SBA policy directive is not a very long document. You can get through it in about an hour or two. Learn it and use that to advocate for yourselves. Because when you do hear an argument like that from somebody in the government that's trying to talk you out of, getting your own award, you should have a response, ready and say, no, I've read it. I'm pretty sure that you're mistaken on that. So data rights and the sole source justification are two completely separate things with their own, guidance in the PD.
Rather than say what a mistake is, I want to give an example. We had a topic, we had 2 awards. We picked the one we thought was better. The folks who didn't win got busy. They said, this fundamental technology is not only for active sonar, we could use it for this thing. And they went out and they got a partner and they started talking to the people in the program office. And they came back and said, we have a phase 1 and this fundamental core technology we developed can apply to this other thing that we know the Navy needs. So just because you get a reject from us on a phase 2 selection or in the different services, it may be called different things, obviously, but if you have some foothold in there, do your own SWOT analysis of what are the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities that you have. Who cares about the threat thing? With your topic, and talk to people about how that can solve their problem. And when you're talking to people about how you can solve their problem, as opposed to how can I get money from you, they're much more receptive.
All right, I have one more question, and then we're going to turn it over to some audience questions, and it's a doozy. So Congress last year, delay, SBIR might go away. We all went, no. We were assured it wouldn't. Eventually, they came back. And, they came back. We were happy that the SBIR programs were still alive, but they also came back with some guidance with respect to performance expectations and some security protocols. So I'm just wondering if you have guidance for the folks that are attending today. How did that change your SBIR process? What do the small businesses need to be aware of with relation to these congressionally mandated changes that took place last year?
So it's a lot of fun when the program gets reauthorized on September 30th. So, we definitely lived through that. And I know a lot of our small businesses, lived through that as well. And we'll be living through it again in just another year or so. So oftentimes reauthorization does come with some fun little tweaks from Congress, and it can take us some time to implement those and really understand how they impact the program. The good news is that the tweaks this last time to the performance standards actually haven't had a huge impact on the number of firms that are eligible for SBIR. I know we haven't yet run into a single situation where a firm that we wanted to select for phase 1 or phase 2, we were unable to because of the performance standards. And I know that that's, I think, the experience across the Navy. In regards to the foreign ownership issue, the main advice I have for that is make sure you fill out that form and you submit it with your proposal. So there is a form that is required now where you do have to identify if any part of your company has any foreign ownership, if your PI has any foreign affiliation. It sounds scary, but I promise it's not. And just because you answer yes to one of those questions doesn't necessarily mean that you're ineligible for an SBIR contract. And as of yet, we have had 0 phase 1 firms that have been rejected due to that form. So we've had many phase 1 firms rejected because they failed to provide the form, that they didn't upload it. As Jason said, we have very strict rules that we have to follow, and if you miss a box, unfortunately, it's not even up to us. The proposal gets taken out at a higher level, and even as the program manager, we don't have the flexibility to put that proposal back into competition. So far, none of our phase 1 firms have yet been denied an award because of any information that they supplied in that form. We're not quite to the point of using that in phase 2s yet, but Again, the impact is not expected to be a big. It's not going to be a big portion of our awards that are no longer going to be able to go forward because of that.
Yeah, exactly. When I first read the reauthorization, I started to sweat, thinking that it was going to be a nightmare. But it turns out that it really has not had much of an impact at all. We are doing, the due diligence process for the foreign ownership. That's more of a background effort that's happening at the Navy level. So we did have to staff up a team to do that, but it's really not impacting. Turn that off. Find the button.
I'll throw out another thing too, which is that because we are getting ready to go through reauthorization, I will be shocked if there is not something in the next reauthorization that further tweaks that foreign ownership part of the program. There's going to be some additional requirement or something added on to it. I have no doubt, just because it is a popular topic with Congress right now. So regardless of when you propose to SBIR, please always read the BAA. Even if you just propose to a topic, the solicitation previously, you never know what might have been updated in that BAA. And I think a lot of our firms that didn't provide that form didn't do it because they had something they didn't want to report to us. It's just they had been applying to SBIR for years, and this was a new requirement, and they just missed it. So make sure that you're always paying attention to that BAA and looking to see if there's anything new.
Yep, the performance benchmarks, on the other hand, that I thought was going to have a much bigger impact, but it's only affected a very small fraction of companies. So again, that one really, most performers never reach that level. So they're perfectly fine. The vast majority of the companies in the program have nothing to worry about. Due diligence, and then the third thing was the open topic requirement. Jury's still out on that to see whether or not it works. I was hesitant initially because the way that we kind of structure our topics, as I mentioned earlier, is with the end in mind, the transition, and that's very hard to do with an open topic because you don't know what you're going to get because you're not addressing a specific issue or a need. So we'll see what happens. We're in the phase 1 cycle of the first open topic right now. So don't know how that's going to pan out yet, but I'm hopeful. And then the other challenge that we had with that was finding evaluators to evaluate all of these proposals, because if you don't know what it is, it's hard to find a technical expert to review it. So you can't find the people until the proposals come in and you see what you've got, and then you have to scramble to put a team together to look at it. So that's kind of why we hadn't done them that way in the past. But since Congress is requiring it now, we're trying to, take the model that the Air Force used for their open topic, put a Navy spin on it, and narrow the focus a little bit, so that we can still, have a target in mind, so to speak. So, yeah, we're working on the second one right now, coming up with the topics. But we'll see how the first one pans out here in the next couple of months.
I would say for us, once we got the summary of what the new stuff was, we're like, what company has that many SBIR awards in a single year? Good grief. So we were very relieved that I feel like a lot of that reauthorization stuff was so somebody had political talking points and it wasn't actually responding to the majority of what was happening here in our world. But one thing I would like to tag on to this is, if you know that you have a pending phase 2 award and you also become aware that your company is planning to get themselves bought by a big, talk to them and let them know. I was so excited to get them under contract. And the week that they were going to get their phase 2 award, they happily emailed us and says, oh, by the way, we've been acquired by so-and-so. Oh my goodness. And an example of the other side of that, we had a company and they had 30 or 40 SBIR awards over their career. But they called and they said, on October 1st, we're no longer going to be considered a small business because we go above that 300, 500, employee threshold. So if we can get that phase 2 award by like the 30th of September, please. And the contracting shop, it was the Lakehurst guys at that point. They pulled it out. They got them that award, I think, on the 29th of September because they actually articulated that they had a problem that was going to make them ineligible. So if you know that something's about, talk with the people who are involved and help them know that they're going to make something be impossible if they proceed on their current path or don't accelerate.
That's actually another misconception, to go back a question, if that's all right. Just because you have 501 employees does not necessarily mean you're too big. They base the size on a rolling 12-month average. So if you spike and then come back down, as long as your average over a 12-month period is below 500, you're still eligible.
This company, they knew that they'd already gone well
They were-
above 500
yeah.
and their rolling average was about to go over.
But they can still get phase 3s and they keep their data rights.
You just mentioned a little bit about the timely nature of things. Are there any other comments about that? Either how long a company can expect that it will take to do either phase 1, 2, or 3 SBIR, or any comments about STTR funding? So how long should companies expect it to take?
The project itself. Phase 1s, at least us and Navy, are 1-year contracts, 6-month base, 6 months option. And then for phase 2, like I mentioned earlier, there's a little bit of deviation between the syscoms. I know that Christy does slightly shorter ones than I do. My phase 2s are all typically 3 years. And then the second phase 2, if we do one, would be the same. So just getting through phase 1 and phase 2 could theoretically be a 7-year process for us.
And then you guys all mentioned about working with you and getting a hold of you. What is the best way for a small business, we'll start with Meg, to communicate, get a hold of you, and what would you say is the most successful tempo for that?
So because I have the job I have where Douglas will airdrop meetings on my schedule with, he doesn't ask me, he just says reviews. So I've gone to a model where I set aside office hours to talk to industry specifically because I'm also core on like 20 contracts. And so when somebody says, "Hey, I want to talk to you," I shoot back an email.
Sorry,
Some of
Meg,
you in the
people are
room-
having trouble hearing.
Sorry. I shoot back an email that says, "Hi, to get time on my schedule, go to this link." I use CoAlendar because it's free. I used to do Acuity, but they started charging $15 a month. That wasn't that useful for me. And that just lets you grab a slot out of my office hours. I see it. I'll send you a Teams link. We have the conversation. So not everybody, I think I'm pretty unique in doing that, but folks whose job is to talk to you tend to be pretty good about getting back and give you a slice of their schedule.
I'll just point. I've got guys all over the country. That's what they specialize in. If it needs to get to me or to my level or something like that, they have open access to me at any given time. And one of the ideas that we've been kind of kicking around for the last few months is doing like an Ask Me Anything session, like a quarterly thing, set aside an hour or two, where I'll have either one of the portfolio managers or myself or somebody just kind of man that phone call. And then anybody can call in and ask questions or talk to us. But if you go to the Navy SBIR site, all of our names and email addresses are up there, so you can drop us emails. But for my team specifically, we've got outreach liaisons all over the country, so just figure out who that is and talk to them.
How long have we known each other? 30 years.
Sean and I went to A school together down the road at Dam Neck, long time ago. We served on a ship together, and then I got out, he stayed in, and then reconnected, 20 some odd years later, and now we're working together again. So Sean can definitely get a hold of me at any given time.
So, and I'll say for NavAir, a lot of times you'll see what looks like just a generic email address listed for us. It's navair-sbir@us.navy.mil. It was the one that was on the last slide of my brief. We have some weird PAO requirements where they don't like us putting email addresses out on the internet. It's something we have been trying to get over, and unfortunately, we just keep running into that roadblock. I'm not sure why it's just us and not everybody. But you will see that generic email address a lot. But what I promise you is there is a human being on the other side of that. It doesn't, it's not just a spam folder. It doesn't go straight to the trash can. We have people who are checking that address every day. And depending on what your question is, what part of the SBIR program you have a question about, if you have an active SBIR, or if you're asking about a topic, the person who's checking that inbox will farm those questions out to the appropriate member of our team. Oftentimes they do go to me. I will say the one other resource I highly recommend, if your questions are not SBIR specific, if it's just, hey, I want to know, would someone in NAVAIR be interested in this technology? Or, what platform should I be targeting for this technology that I have? We can oftentimes help with those, but we have a limited network of people who participate in SBIR, so we might happen to know the right person. But we also have an Office of Small Business Programs, NAVAIR OSBP office, and they have a great program to liaison with small businesses and give you some more general information. If you're just trying to figure out if NAVAIR is a good fit for you as a customer base, and you're trying to look at maybe non-SBIR customers who might be interested in a technology you've already developed, what they will do is they will have a meeting with you where they will give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about your company, about your technology, where you see it going, and then they have a much better network of subject matter experts throughout the organization that are working with small business. And they do occasionally reach out to us too if they feel it's something relevant to SBIR. So that's another avenue that you can take to come in that's a little bit broader than just SBIR as well.
Great. So that was excellent. We do have a few minutes for questions. And just to point out, so the NAVC SBIR person that Jason was just referencing is actually part of the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge team. So he physically is in this area. This is one of the ways that we work together to support offices like that. So they fund and allow him to use some of the time out of their budget, out of Jason's budget, for him to work with us because we're doing so many activities related to small businesses. Many of the other tech bridges throughout the country are doing other things related to increasing awareness and educational opportunities for small businesses. So any other questions specifically for this panel? All right, hold on. Let me give you the microphone, please.
Really, thanks for the discussion here. So we've had a lot of success with phase 1s and 2s and 3s, but I still think the challenge that's out there is when you get to phase 3s is educating KOs and cores and PMs what the SBIR law says. When you get into J&As aren't required and they just don't understand. They don't maybe have read, like you said, Jason. So what maybe is a recommendation that you would recommend to go to companies that are maybe standing up phase 3s that run into a situation where you've got some pushback from the government saying, no, you can't do it. You can't do a sole source. Would it be reaching out to you, your counterparts? For me, Dick McNamara was a huge ally within NAVC to kind of work within some of the organizations that we had our phase 3 with.
Yes, Dick McNamara, as he mentioned, he's my transition lead. Mac is, referred to as the grandfather of SBIR within NAVC. He was the former executive director of PEO Subs, and he was very successful in using the program at its inception. He's long since retired from the government, but now he's a consultant on my team that does exactly that. Yes, unfortunately, the way that the legislation is written, all of my authority happens in phase 1 and phase 2, and I have zero authority outside of that with phase 3. But we do educate and advocate. So yeah, just raise it to my attention. I can't force a change, but I can at least talk to the KO or the acquisition folks. I can give them a briefing on these are the rules. Like I was mentioning earlier, you're your best advocate. So understand what authorities there are and what the rules are so that you can raise it at your level when you're talking to them. And if that doesn't work, then by all means, elevate it to the Office of Small Business Programs or to one of us, and we'll kind of put that together. At NAVC specifically, to address that exact problem, they did stand up a Small Business Advisory Council. Keyword is advisory. Again, it doesn't have any teeth, but that panel consists of myself, the director of the Office of Small Business Programs, Ms. Ann Bannister, a lawyer, and the chief of staff of the contracting activity. So the four of us will sit down and review, those issues when they come up. And we'll basically just put together a white paper or a memo with our findings. Like I said, I can't force somebody to change their behavior, but we will document it and we'll send it to the leadership that's, above the appropriate program, saying, hey, the advisory council says, we think that you're violating the SBIR regulations in X, Y, and Z area. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but yeah, advocate for yourself, raise it to our attention. If it doesn't work, and we'll push as hard as we can, but it mostly comes down to education and training.
And I will say, I am aware that there is a training initiative at the OSD level where they are currently trying to put together some training that is specifically for contracting officers. So it's a known issue, and we're hoping to have some training here soon that will document best practices across the DoD and kind of clarify some of those rules when it comes to contracting phase 3s.
Yep, last quick comment because we just to stay on schedule. Thank you.
So one of the things, there's phase 3 contracts, but I found if a normal contract takes 2 years at some organizations, phase 3 will take 3 years because they just don't know what it is. And they don't let us use GSA, unfortunately. But there are OTAs. There's no bar on being part of those consortiums. A lot of my companies will say, hey, Meg, we're now in Seaport. I haven't actually used that to get to them. Another thing that we do out of our office is we have our own BAA where we are able to send classified need statements out to industry, either in an industry day or by mail. And we get a wide swath of proposals, and a fair number of those are from our small business partners who have had a phase 2 or they're still in a phase 2, because they know our BAA awards tend to happen about a year after the sole source makes a decision that it's awardable.
Thank you very much to this panel for providing such great information. We're going to transition from the panel to another speaker immediately, so sit tight for a minute while we get to our next great speaker. Thank you.
Paul, do me a favor and stand over here.
Hey.
And just say testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing, did we turn it on yet?
Yeah.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. That sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Uh-oh.
So give me a second. I'd like to hear so that I can get you in your slides in the video. So that, you see that little black box next to the exit sign? That little
Yeah.
black circle? That's a camera with 55 people looking at you.
Here we go. I know those slides.
Tell us if they can. Okay, you're great. You're back. Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paul Cole. I manage the Navy STP transition program. We're a Navy-funded program. So my boss is retiring today, Bob Smith. Don't know who the new boss is, but we are a Navy-funded program. So people always ask, well, how do I get into your program? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first, I want you to really know that what do we do? What is Navy STP all about? We're going to help small businesses that have a Navy Phase 2 find that transition. We're about connecting you to those transition opportunities. That's what we're all about. And if you look at it, the Navy does about 65% of the Phase 3 transition comes through the Navy. So they're more transitions than any of the other services with about the same amount of SBIR money to begin with. So they have a really great track record, and I like to think Navy STP is part of that solution. And don't let the title fool you. We also do STTRs. So we do them both. And so what's our job? Like I said, we're to connect that small business with warfighters to acquisition professionals. We work with primes. We work with the technical points of contact. We work with the systems integrators. Anybody and everybody that has a need for that technology that's going to help the warfighter, we want to go out and talk to them, tell them what these programs are about, and help you find that transition. All right, so here we go. What do? I call them the 6 action verbs, our 6 objectives. We collaborate, and really, we're going to help you develop those marketing materials you need to go out and talk to the prime or to a systems integrator or somebody in the government. Because we've talked about it a lot, you've got to be passionate about your technology, but you got to also be able to convey what are you trying to get from that person that you're trying to sell it to. And if you go in with a really highly technical presentation, most of the time they're going to go right over their heads. You're going to lose them, and they're going to say, "Thank you very much for your 10 minutes," and you've lost it. What we help them do is actually create a presentation that they can use at a level that people are going to get interested in. A program manager is going to get interested in. I always say, if you talk to the program manager and he likes your presentation, he gets it, then he's going to bring in the technical guy and say, "Hey, we need this. How does it work?" But if you can't get past the program manager, you're not going to get that transition. So that's what we help them do. We also help them do a quad chart. The Navy loves quad charts. There's always got to be in a certain spot. Everything has to be way. And like Christy talked about, each one of the system commands has a different way on certain things can't go on that quad chart. We help them do that so it gets through PAO approval. And that's a requirement. If you're going to go out and market your SBIR technology, it's got to be PAO approved by the government. So we help them do that. Last thing I do, we help them do a capability brochure. You'd be surprised at how many small companies, and I'll call them small, large companies, don't do a company capability brochure. Because when the government or a prime is buying that technology, they're not wanting to just buy that one thing and done. They want to make a relationship with that small business. So you have to have a company capability brochure that really tells the company, tells that person you're talking to, what did you do? Why do I want to be involved with you? What's your company all about? And so we help them make a company capability brochure, but of course that doesn't have to go through PAO approval. We educate. We have a series of webinars. We do about 18. Some of them are how-tos. But we talk about IP data rights. We bring in NDA experts. A whole host of things that you need to understand to actually transition your technology. Work on that. We research. I have a dedicated team of 6 market researchers, and all they do all day long, they love this, is take what's your technology. And at the end of the year, well, actually, just before they go to one of their showcase they go to, I'll see what those are in a minute, they'll get a market research analysis report. And it's going to tell that company who wants their technology, not just who sponsored their topic. Who else? What other person in the Navy needs it? What other DoD service needs it? Who out in the industry wants it? And in that, it's not just going to be, here it is, that, Huntington Ingalls wants it. It's going to be, who at Huntington Ingalls wants it? Here's the name. Here's their contact information. And here's why you want to call them. So just coming to our program for that market research analysis report, all worth the time. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the really best thing about Navy STP, it's free. It's free. Cost that small business nothing other than their time. Just want to make sure I plug that, and I'll plug that about 5 times during the program, or my speech. Mentor. So we have about 10 business, well, we have 10 business consultants on our team, and their sole mission for the 11 months that you're in the program is to work with you directly, taking that information you get from the market research report, working with you on the PAO products, and helping you get that speech ready, that pitch ready, so you can go out and transition your technology. We're going to put you in front of people, so when you get in there, you know what to say, you know what to do. We also help them on other things as far as, hey, you don't want to be in the meeting and the PM says, I want that, let's buy it. And then you go, okay, when do you want it? He says, I need it 3 weeks from now. And you have not even thought about, how am I going to deliver it? So we're going to start talking to them, how am I going to deliver that technology? Because it's one thing to develop it, it's another thing to deliver it. So we already start talking about how are you going to actually fulfill that phase 3 contract when you get it. Connect. So I'm going to talk a little bit further down in the brief, but we have what we call 3 showcases. We do Sierra and Space, we go out to West, we have our own Syscom event. All of them are 3 great events. We take every single one of our small businesses gets to go to one of those events. And then they're going to meet government, prime, other services, a whole host of people that want to talk to them and help them make that connection. The last one I want to talk about are 2 things. We do what I call technical information exchange meetings. We now work with the primes. And we don't just work with the top 10. We work with about 40 primes right now. 40 primes get to see the technologies that are in our program. We're working with them. We talk with them. What are their needs? They come in, talk to our small businesses. We've made a lot of great connections doing it that way. And the last, we have something called Navy STP Connect. It ends in 3 days. But basically, it's a platform, a virtual platform, where we have our primes and government points of contact on one side, all of our small businesses and their technology on the other. And both, they can marry up. So a prime or a government can say, hey, I want to talk to that small business. And again, the small business can turn around and say, I want to talk to them, the prime or the government. Real easy, real simple. Make a 30-minute phone call. It's really an introduction phone call. They say, hey, we got some synergy here. We'll take it offline. But we've made that introduction, that connection. And the last thing, promote. We do a lot of the transition newsletter. If you don't get the Navy STP transition newsletter, I highly encourage you to get it. We put it out 3 times a year. And we talked about phase 3s in the next one that comes out here in the spring, which should be out in end of May, 1st of June. It'll have the entire listing of all the Navy phase 3s for FY23. Every single one of them. And yeah, next slide. So I talked a little bit about our team. It's important. We have a really great team, business consultants. That's not just anybody. We have 10 that are across all the services. I don't just have Navy. I have Navy, I have Air Force, I have Army. I don't just have people that, just been in the service. I have a whole bunch of industry folks as well. I have small business folks. They actually ran their own small business, and now they're on our team. So we have a diverse group. So it's not just one thing. You're getting that consolidated effort from every single one of those BCs because we talk every single week, and they communicate. Hey, I got a small business that needs that. You're the Army rep. What can you do to help me? Market researchers. I can't talk enough about these folks. These are all library science folks that really love to get into the internet, and they'll find those other avenues or those other technology transition opportunities for you. Really great thing. The other thing they do on our website, on our workspace, we have platform guides. So we go out and every single platform in the Navy, every single PEO, every single organization that buys stuff, we have a guide. It says, here's what they're looking for, here's their name, here's the email, here's their point of contact. So if nothing else, they can go in and look at those 150 plus guides and find who do I want to go talk to? Because if it's not somebody in our market research analysis report, they want to talk to ABC, Instead of CBS, they can go find it and talk to them. I have an event team. I'll talk, like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about our events, but we do nine events. I call it the 3-3-3 program. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I have a media team. And we put out success stories, spotlights, transition newsletters. We do social media. And I got another slide to talk a little bit more about what those are. And of course, the data management team, because we have 137 technologies in the program this year. And a lot of information to go flowing back and forth. So I got to have a data management team. Next slide, please. Okay. Oh my, I got to talk fast. Really quickly, we're a year-long program. We are actually finishing our cohort right now. We have 3 days left in it. We'll start the next cohort. We'll actually have a month where we do what we call the kickoff meeting. We start that on Monday. And we give them a series of modules where they learn about STP, they learn about the Navy and some other things, and they get the opportunity to actually enroll in our program. Our program will actually start on June 6th for the next cohort. And you can see over there, again, it's our 6 objectives, but we're doing all those things all year long. They mesh together. You're not just doing objective 1 and then objective 2 and objective 3. They all kind of overlap and required and build upon each other. Next slide. We got time. I want to talk about our trade shows real quick. So I already mentioned it. We're going to be at West. The date for our Syscom event, that one's wrong. We're actually going to be on March 4th and 5th. And then we'll be at Sea and Space. I want to talk a little bit about the Syscom because that one, it's a really close-knit event. So everyone here has probably been to a trade show. There's, I don't know, 10,000 of us marching around, and it's just pandemonium. Lots going on, lots of noise. We have the Syscom event. We bring 60 technologies. We get about 150 government and primes in there, and it's a one-on-one meeting. And you get some really great conversations going. And those are some just nice little things about us. So again, we take.
Which one of these is Syscom?
So it's the middle one right here.
This one. And what were the correct dates?
So the correct dates are 4th and 5th of March.
4th and 5th.
Yeah, we just.
Okay, thanks.
That was tentative on our dates, and we just got the contract. And so I didn't have time to change it. Next slide. Okay, last slide. So this is really the most important one. So could we actually first go to Navy STP, the home Navy STP one? So I'm going to try to answer a few of the questions that people asked today. Okay, we'll start here. So this is Navy SBIR. Well, you're fine. I can start at any of them. Okay, well, this is our VTM. I like this one. This is a virtual transition marketplace. So every single company that's been, or technology, excuse me, because really we're technology focused. I talk about small businesses, but really it's technology. Every single technology that's been through our program since 2016 is up here. This is a public-facing searchable database. So if you want to see so if you go up, if you go scroll down a little bit, okay, and you can see there's a filter. So I can filter by category. Let's hit one of those. And just hit air platforms. There you go. Hit OK. Nope. Oh, here you go. Battle space. So you can see out of those, we have 25 that are in battle space. And they're listed by the year that they've been in the program. So if the very first ones all the way to the end. If you go to a tech one that says Tech Talk Video, see that? This is something we instituted 2 years ago. And it's going to play the thing. So we can go back. We require them now to give us a recording, a script, a little sub-story. When we were at Sea and Space this past year, one of our companies came up and they actually got introduced to a prime and got a phase 3 because the prime saw their video, listened to it, reached out to them, and then they talked to them and then bought their product. So coming through our program, it's not just a thing to do. It works. Yeah, go to the Navy SBIR one. So this one, which one on it? The Navy, this is the Navy SBIR. So the reason I wanted to show this one, someone was talking about phase 3s, and I have a hard time with the contracting officer. The Navy really put out a great phase 3 handbook here somewhere. It's on here. And there's our transition newsletter. If you look at, there's the phase 3 handbook. It has all the dates on there for when the solicitations came out. If you don't have this key mark for the Navy, you need to keep it. And here's the search tool. Someone was asking, how do I find out, who's got a phase 1, who got a phase 2, who got a phase 3? The search tool has it. It's a great database, and all of this is open. This is free and open. You don't need a CAC card, you don't need anything. It's out there and ready to go. Can we go to one last one, please? Navy STP, our website. All right, so this is our website. I got to plug our program. If you scroll down a little bit, one thing I want to talk about, here, see there's the FY33. Look at that, that number, I can't even say it, it's too large. You can come down, you can find the VTM. Please keep scrolling. Showcases, oh, go back to showcases. If you want to know where we're going, all our showcases are here. If you want to see what we did 3 years ago, you can click on it and see all the technologies that went to that Sierra in Space 3 years ago. If you want to see who we just took last year, it's up here. Transition newsletter. There's our last one, was the winner. And there should be one more. Success story, here's spotlights. Spotlights, we talk about Navy small businesses that have gotten a transition, but they didn't sell it to the Navy. They got bought or they sold it to a prime. Great stories about how the small businesses succeeded in getting those phase 3s. And the last thing, I'm out of time. Thank you. And I tell you, you got to be passionate. Somebody asked, how do they want to sell their product? That small business has to be passionate. You got two things.
There we go.
Say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead and say a few more things.
All right.
What'd you have for lunch?
One of those great sandwiches provided by the Tech Bridge, right?
C5 BDI.
There you go. And it was great. They told Paul he had 5 minutes left. I have 5 minutes total. So forgive me if I sound like the high interest rate disclaimer on a used car commercial. There we go. Okay. Great. Well, my name is Kelly Carruthers. I am with the Department of the Navy Small Business Innovation Research Experimentation Cell. That's a long thing to remember, so you can call us the DONSEC or the SEC. We'll respond to all of it. We were established in 2020 really to use experimentation as an opportunity for small businesses to kind of navigate that valley of death into transition. We really do want to affect transition, affect that P sub T for the small business. In 2020 was quite a challenge. Of course, COVID hit right after we got established. And how do you get a small business into Europe during, constantly changing requirements? We did so. We got kind of caveats, what Jason and the Marine Corps were saying. And we got a small business that was initially an Air Force SBIR that had Navy interest that the Marine Corps ended up buying after going into this event. So again, affecting the transition, doing that cross
service pole. But anyway, we want to use experimentation as a potential venue to get you into a transition state. There are certain benefits of using experimentation. What I'll focus on here is kind of that center part, the SBIR programs, the PMO, the TPOC, and the small business. That's really who we service. We're connected all through the Navy and the Marine Corps, but when it comes down to it, we work with that small business and the TPOC through an experimentation cycle, and that's all the planning and then even boots on ground during execution. Go to the next slide. All right, there's a few ways we do that. We've got a small team of about 10 people. We're all multi-hatted. I'm the outreach lead. I'm also the direct liaison to NAVC and NAVAIR for the team, and I'm also the team's cybersecurity subject matter expert. All of our teammates are all multi-hatted that way. We've created a set of guidebooks. These are Distro A. They're on our website, which I'll talk about on the last slide. But the 101 is basics of experimentation. It is tailored to the small business so you can understand it. The 102, which is the ship rider's guide. If you need to go put your widget on ship and you've never been on a gray hull before, this is a really good read. How are you going to eat? How are you going to sleep? Those sort of things. The 103 is the installation and engineering processes. Just because you've got a great widget that you want to go put on a ship doesn't mean you just get to do so. There are a lot of hurdles that you may have to clear to be able to get onto that ship. We help with those things. And this guidebook talks about a lot of those. The 104, experimentation or experiment analysis and reporting. One thing that's different with experimentation versus, say, a demonstration is with experimentation, you can get objective quality evidence out of it. That's what we really think is the determining factor, or at least a helpful one for transition. This particular guidebook covers down on that. If we end up working with your small business, we'll actually team you up with one of our teammates who does data capture and analysis, reporting and planning. He'll provide the tools to do the data capture on site. He'll do objective development in concert with the government TPOC and program manager to make sure that you're getting the information out of that event that you want. So again, another good read. Facilitation, mentor, and training. I like to say that we're kind of a concierge when it comes to experimentation. No SBIR is the same as the next, and no event is the same as the next. They're very unique, and not all SBIRs need to go to every event. One of the unique things that we do is we keep a 24-month rolling calendar of all the Navy and Marine Corps events that are coming up that we support. And as you know, your technology has really matured to the point of experimentation in that phase 2. Well, there's a limited number of days in a phase 2 contract. So by the time you're mature enough, say, hey, I want to go into an experimentation event, those events are periodic and there's a planning cycle that goes up to them. So what we do is we essentially have 2 moving targets that we try and hit the bullseye with 1 round by aligning you to the appropriate event to get you into. And that is everything from helping you submit your application to get into the event, get through all the planning cycles. We'll set up a battle rhythm with you to make sure that you're clearing all the hurdles required by the event stakeholders, making sure that you're covering down on everything that the TPOC or the PM wants, and then obviously everything getting into execution of the event. Real quick, the Don SBIR website, which is the overall, is navysbir.com. If you roll down on that website, there will be a link to us, which will take you to this second website, which is sbir.com/SEC. You can follow us on LinkedIn. It's a good follow because we post about events and things that are happening in experimentation. And one of my coworkers, Chris Dillman, was supposed to be here today. Instead, I'm here. That's his contact information. Our government program manager is Mr. Scott Bartlett. And up until today, our sponsor was Mr. Bob Smith. And I think in the interim, that's going to be Mr. Brian Shipley. Did I make 5 minutes? All right. Thank you.
Any quick questions? I think one thing though.
Oh, real quick, just so you don't get frothing at the mouth. We don't provide funding. We're funded. We're not going to bill you. But we're very acutely aware of the implications of funding going through execution. So we're aware of it. We work with NAVC, NAVAIR on getting into those events and making sure that you can execute.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. Any quick questions before we bring up Allison with Ensign? Okay. And you'll be around for a little bit, right? Or are you heading out?
I'll
Okay,
be
perfect.
here all afternoon.
Okay, great. I will take that. So we are transitioning to our last speaker. She is virtual, but I think we'll have a lot of good information about Ensign. You see here, National Security Innovation Network. So Allison, I'm gonna have you, I have to ask you to come off mute. So give me just a second. Let me find my participants. Allison, can you type in chat? I thought I saw you come in, but I don't see you coming up when I search for you. Let me see. Oh, you're Ensign. Okay. Ooh, never mind. Okay. That's why I asked. Okay. I'm going to ask you to unmute. So hopefully, Allison, can you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm going to turn you up in here, but the floor is yours, Allison. And yeah, go ahead. And I will have your slides. So just let me know when you want to advance.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting Ensign to speak today. Your regional engagement principal is Oliver Hillgardner. I'm guessing a lot of you have hopefully met him already. He's a great resource, but since he can't be here today, I'm going to run over a few of Ensign's opportunities for small businesses in his stead. But I put his contact information at the end of the brief, and I definitely encourage you to reach out for him and or sign up for his newsletter because he sends out a newsletter every month to just keep the ecosystem tight and make sure you guys are aware of all the opportunities. So, okay, let's dive into it. The mission of Ensign is to generate networks of new problem solvers to create non-traditional solutions for problems for the Department of Defense. And as with probably many of the other groups from this brief, we work a lot with academia and industry and specifically try to listen to projects and problems that are coming out of the military and find experts like yourselves who can solve them who may not previously have been aware of the opportunities. We are a program office under the Defense Innovation Unit, which now reports to the Secretary of Defense. And if you saw the news yesterday, our new commercial engagement team manager, Liz McNally Young, was announced. So we're really looking forward to having her on board and working with her more closely. And okay, next, let's get to the opportunities. We have a series of different programs, and we also have opportunities through Defense Innovation Unit and NSIC. So I'm going to run through the opportunities that we have just through Ensign itself first, and then take a broader view and zoom out to NSIC and DIU. And the first opportunity that Ensign has is called Challenges. We work directly with the military partners to come up with needs that they have that could be solved by people like yourselves, entrepreneurs, in the small business community. And I looked around, our website, peculiarly enough, does not have these posted. They are posted under Ensign's events page, which is why I put in the lower right-hand corner, challenges will always be posted on Ensign's Funding Opportunities newsletter, which is on LinkedIn. It's a super good resource because pretty much every week, the comms team compiles 20 or 30 different funding opportunities around the DoD and publishes them. So if you really want to make sure that you're aware of every single challenge that Ensign puts out, I recommend subscribing to that Funding Opportunities newsletter. But you can also go on the Ensign webpage and poke around in the events section, and maybe that someday we'll get them added to the challenges tab too. Nonetheless, we right now currently have 3 challenges, and these are pretty much Ensign's fastest turnaround for winning funding. If you have technology that matches the need, you submit, you apply, the application process is pretty short. Your technology is reviewed, and if you're a match, you can win the funding through Ensign's Prize Authority. The prizes, the largest I've ever seen is $150,000. So they usually range somewhere between $25,000 to $100,000. The 3 that are up there right now, I believe that $75,000 is broken down across multiple winners, unless there's just one that runs away with it and then they can get the entire prize. But either way, the Ensign challenges are a really good light lift for the amount of funding that you can win if your technology matches what the mission partner is looking for. So right now we've got the one that's looking for masterful range scheduling software. If you have a way to help deconflict scheduling for like air ranges or naval ranges across all the different military partners and branches and services that are using a range, they definitely want you to apply for that. Expeditionary energy, and then also electronic warfare. Those are the other two topics, and new topics are released probably every couple of weeks to a month. NSIN is planning on releasing quite a few challenges this year because we are activating them through the new on-ramp hubs across the country, which are in Hawaii, Kansas, Arizona, oh gosh, where are the other two? Washington, and the last one is escaping me right now, but basically each of these on-ramp hubs are going to get 2 separate challenges. So that's 10 across the country with up to $150,000 in prizes. So this is a fast happening type of program, and subscribe to that funding opportunities newsletter to keep on top of it. Okay, next one. Propel. Propel is an accelerator program, which is it's more of like a deep dive into one single technology vertical for a military partner that's looking to analyze a couple of different companies in whatever that technology is. So one of them, for example, was conducted on companies that can provide 5G infrastructure. Another one was conducted related to battery solutions and capabilities, AI/ML. These are all like common themes for our Propel cohorts. The last one, which is still ongoing right now, I put a picture of it on screen, and that was with NATO Diana, which is really cool. If you have any partners in Europe, that would have been a very good opportunity for you. And these cohorts mostly meet virtually. There is like an opening and a closing event this time at the Mission Acceleration Center in Washington. But it's generally, you can stay where you are, participate in the cohort. And the major benefit here is the additional connection that you're going to get to the military partners who are very interested in your type of technology. And companies that go through this have a very good track record of winning follow-on SBIRs. So if that's your kind of where your technology sits, that TRL level, Propel is a really good option for you if a military partner puts out a request for a type of technology that you're a good fit for. And this one, I felt that the best way to stay informed of this would be to sign up for the NSIN newsletter, which is kind of NSIN's more broader newsletter, that it has a lot of other information in there that's not strictly related to funding opportunities. So it's got like things that NSIN has done recently that are interesting, or case studies of students who have worked on projects. Like it's got a little bit more, it's not quite as concentrated as the funding opportunities newsletter, but the best way to stay on top of when a Propel cohort is going out would be by subscribing to the NSIN newsletter. So I put that link in there for you. Next slide, please. Then we have Forge. Forge is NSIN's program that helps startups be connected to DoD lab technology that the DoD is looking to license out and commercialize. If you already have a good relationship with a DoD lab, you can go to them directly to their tech transfer office and just ask for what technology they have that's available for licensing. So there's nothing like exclusive access from that perspective that NSIN provides in this program. The value add for Forge is that you are going to be paired to a bespoke type of technology that's probably a really good fit for your company. And NSIN is talking to labs all across the country. So if you wanted to do the work of going out and talking to every single lab, you definitely can. But if you apply to Forge and if you're accepted, NSIN will work to find a piece of DoD technology that's really good for your company. And you don't have to do the legwork on that. And then you go through the typical accelerator process, lots of connection to the military partners and other units around the country that would be interested in that type of technology. And you do customer discovery to see if it's something that you could actually incorporate into your currently existing business or spin out into an additional startup or LLC or something like that. And typically there is a prize competition at the end as well. So you can potentially win funding as well. But the main objective here is really like the discovery process, working more closely with labs, looking at early stage technology, getting familiar with the licensing process, working through all of the intellectual property contracts that would go along with that. So if your niche is early stage technology, like that's still maybe at the basic research level, but you are really good at commercializing it, this would be an awesome program for you. And the last cohort just wrapped up. So it may not be running for a little bit, but just keep tabs on it. NSIN does also do a complimentary program called Foundry, basically the same names, a little confusing. And Foundry is for single entrepreneurs who are basically looking for their next gig. So if you see Forge or Foundry, you know you're in the right place if you're looking to work with DoD labs and licensed technology. The only difference between those programs is Foundry is for singular entrepreneurs, whereas Forge is for small businesses that have already got their other value proposition and they're looking to incorporate new technology. Next. Here's Vector. Vector is NSIN's welcome to the DoD, learn how to work with Department of Defense from the ground up. So if you know any small businesses or you are a small business that is just looking into getting into dual use technology, this is an awesome program. And we are actually accepting applications for the next cohort right now, which is kind of rare and cool. And the application closes May 10th. So I put the link in there to apply. And this program, it's going to be 10 weeks with like 20 other companies. You get how does contracting work? How about like what do I need to know about OPSEC and CUI? What military partners are probably interested in the type of technology that I have? How do I work on commercializing or developing my commercial case so that I can survive the contracting cycle? All that kind of stuff. So obviously, if you've already won some contracts, this is not for you. But if you know somebody who's starting, I can vouch this is an awesome program. Last time around, I shepherded 2 startups that were actually started by students who are still undergrads. So like as green as they could be to the DoD contracting process. They thought it was fantastic. They learned a lot. They're both in business. One of them is already generating revenue, which if you've been around the startup world for a while, some companies have made it 5 or 6 years and they're not actually generating revenue. So these guys put their heads down and they actually did it. And you also have a chance to pitch at the end as well. And I think there's 3 tiers of prizes, 25K, 15K, and 10K. So you might even win a little bit of money. And obviously the main value add is the knowledge and expertise that you'll get. So this is, I can promise that this program is as advertised. It's a very, very good experience if you're brand new. So would definitely encourage you to apply or send it to somebody who could use it. And next. Transition Cell. This is NSIN's team of contracting experts, private capital experts, and just like growing your business experts who are standing by to work with all of our program alumni to help them make it to the next TRL level or the next funding level. So if you are basically just looking for extra advice, this is quite similar to the Apex accelerators, formerly known as PTACs, if you've worked with them or used them before. So it's just a supplementary opportunity for networking, basically. And if you are an entrepreneur, you know that like you have to jump on each one of those opportunities because one of them is going to be the one that leads to like what the gentleman before me was talking about with that opportunity for a phase 3, which was just amazing. So think of the transition cell as just an additional resource to talk to if you have any questions about OTAs or how to like prep my SBIR or that kind of thing. NSIN can also try to, like, if your technology is something that someone in the transition cell is aware of, is a great need for a military partner across the country, they can try to broker those connections. And then the other thing that they also do is, if it's a good fit, they can also introduce you to their investor network. So whether or not you've been in an NSIN program before, I recommend that you reach out to them at the email address there if you're interested. They're supposed to be helping primarily companies that have already gone through NSIN programmings, and I do encourage that as well. But I've never heard them turn away a company that was looking for advice. So if you're looking for advice, definitely reach out to them. And next. DIU solicitations. If I were in the room, I would ask you to raise your hands if you've ever applied for one. But essentially, these are DIU's bread and butter. These are the applications or the calls that they put out through which they execute their famously fast contracting turnaround times. And these are for OTAs. These are just prototyping contracts. But the lift is very light. You're supposed to submit no more than 15 slides or 5 pages. And then if you're down selected, eventually you can go to pitch in person. And then if you're awarded, the paperwork obviously gets more significant from there. But it's definitely one of the lighter application processes in the entire Department of Defense. So I encourage you to go to that website, diu.mil/work-with-us. And if you scroll to the bottom of any page in Defense Innovation Unit, you can sign up for notifications to be notified when one of their solicitations goes out, so that you never miss one. And then whenever one comes up that's relevant to your technology area, you can apply. And I listed the verticals: autonomy, AI, cyber, energy, human performance, and space. But as long as you can make a good case for being in one of those verticals, you're good to go. Next. And last but not least, we have NSIC, National Security Innovation Capital. This is a sister organization to NSIN. They receive about $15 million per year. That's 15 million. And if your technology is anything related to the, I'm sorry, I'm like holding back a tickle in my throat. If it's anything related to autonomy, robotics, computing, communications, energy, sensors, or space, you are invited to apply. And you don't even have to wait for like an application to come out. You're allowed to just upload your brief to the website directly. However, they get absolutely bombarded with briefs. And NSIN has a little bit of like an interior, like an internal conduit. I'm still holding back that tickle, sorry. But I have submitted multiple briefs on behalf of companies who have asked to have NSIC review their proposals, and it does go a little bit faster. So if you are interested, you can either upload your pitch directly to the website or reach out to Oliver, and Oliver can get in touch with me, or he can do it himself, and we can get your brief in front of NSIC to review. Because they only have $15 million, they tend to get their funding allocated very fast. So this does not end up being an excellent solution, in my opinion, for most people. But if you have a technology that is a hardware that you need to get from prototyping phase to production stage, so like TRL 3 to like 6, that's the jump you're trying to make, and you're developing hardware in one of those categories, you might be a great fit. So if that is what you are, I would definitely say reach out, give it a shot. And sometimes even if their funding has been allocated, they say, we really like this, please try again next year. So the website is up top, and let's go to the last slide. Okay, so I gave you a lot of links. I wasn't sure what the best way to do, or the best way to like show all of these, because I don't know, I don't really like QR codes that much. So I did just write them all here. Just to recap, the NSIN newsletter is kind of more like all information about NSIN broadly. It does include everything, like every time a challenge comes out, or every time you can apply for a vector or a Propel application. So subscribe to that if you just want to keep on top of what's happening at NSIN. If you want that really concentrated funding opportunities newsletter, you can go get that on LinkedIn. I think probably just Googling it might be better than typing in that URL. You can always email the transition cell and say that, you know, you watched this brief and that's how you heard about it. Definitely sign up for those DIU solicitations. Apply as often as you can, even if your technology is not at 5+. Like DIU says that they really want 6+, but apply early. Even if you're too early, if you have a good, if it fits what they're looking for, apply. And then apply to NSIC at that link. And then last but not least, email Oliver if you want to sign up for the NSIN in Virginia newsletter. It's awesome. He's one of the only people in the country who does that newsletter. And that way you can keep on top of all the opportunities that he finds and presents to you guys as well. And that's my time. So thank you, Tina.
Alison, thank you so much. And I will second your LinkedIn newsletter, like a lot of good information you guys put out there. And I didn't know about Oliver's newsletter, so I'm definitely going to sign up for that. I don't see any questions online. Are there any questions in the room for Alison? We probably have time for 1 or 2 questions. John, you want to ask? Yep.
Alison, thank you. Do you have a LinkedIn account?
Alison, did you hear that? Did we lose you? Oh, she does. Yeah. She might still be. Oh, she can't unmute now. Sorry, I'll unmute you again. She does. Sorry, we have the Zoom lockdown.
Yeah, I do. I can definitely follow up with Tina to give that and Oliver's as well.
Great, thank you. We've got another question in the room for you.
Hi, Hi, thank you so much for the brief. So this is Julie as part of the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge team, and we only kind of recently discovered NSIN, well, a year ago now, and just want to echo to all of the folks here and the other Tech Bridge people as well. It's an amazing resource. They have funding to do things that align very much with our mission. Not just our mission, the tech bridges, but what many of the challenges and the things that the small business community is interested in learning about. It is an amazing resource. The newsletters and the resources they put out are very helpful. So, and if you are in this region, you can reach out to the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. If you're in a different region, you can reach out to that local tech bridge, and they should be able to connect you with the correct folks and make you aware of other activities and things going on that either NSIN is putting out or the tech bridges are doing with NSIN.
We good? Okay. Well, Allison, again, thank you so much. And I will definitely follow up with you to get your LinkedIn information from both you and Oliver, but thank you again. So with that, let me get to the next slide.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, some of my graphics are going a little crazy now, but there's a couple important things, and I'll fix it in just a second. So first off, thank you to all of our speakers, for everyone who traveled here, from the DC area, even further. Thank you guys for coming. This is our third annual event. Yep. The link is right there. There should be a QR code for our survey. So that we look at those surveys. It'll take you 2 seconds. You get out. I would say get out your phone, but there's no QR code. And we look at that, and that'll kind of dictate other events that we put on. So while we do this yearly, we do monthly events. So I encourage you to take that survey. You could also type that in, and I'll get the QR code up here in a second. Second, so the QR code that is up there is tomorrow we're hosting 6 SESs here, and we're going to be streaming it virtually to talk innovation. So 6 of them will be sitting up here. You can get out your phone and scan that QR code and join us virtually for that. So that QR code is working. I will say Eventbrite and LinkedIn are the best ways to stay in touch with the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge and what we're doing. So if you're not following us on LinkedIn or you're not tied to us on Eventbrite, you should be, and that will tell you all the events that we have coming up. So with that, I'm going to see, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the one-on-ones, but I didn't know if Gerald or Julie had any closing remarks. Okay. No, again, thank you all for coming out, staying till the end of the day. We know it can be a long day, but we really appreciate it. We appreciate our sponsors, Insperity and BDI, for the food and beverages. We couldn't do these things without them. And I will turn it over to Miss Eileen to talk a little bit about one-on-ones, but thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much. And for those online, thank you for hanging out with us. We started with 75 online at 9 a.m. We're still holding strong at 44. Thank you. That's a lot of hours to be online. The rest of the conversation today is going to be about the in-person one-on-one meetings. So if you're online, thank you very much. That little black circle on the back wall, you can wave goodbye to them all. Thank you. Now, what we're going to do next is some of you signed up for some one-on-one meetings. We have 4 different representatives who are staying and working from 3 o'clock to 4:30 doing 10-minute one-on-one meetings. Those 4 representatives will be placed in 4 different locations in the building. They will stay where they are, and you as audience members will move between the different rooms. We have helpers at all the doors to help you find where you're going. So for Chris, I'm going to assign you to Joe. Maybe he's not in the room right now. Chris is going to be, all right. And then Meg, I'm going to assign you with Charlie to help you to get to your room. And then we have the Army, Paul Reed is going to be on the mezzanine conference room. So if you get in the elevator and you hit M, you'll get out on the mezzanine level. And if you just walk forward, you'll see a conference room there. If you're meeting in the Startup Studios conference room, then you're going to be on the 1st floor, and you'll look for the Startup Studios office, which is right next to the elevators. And then if you are going to go to the first floor conference room, that's right next door to the Startup Studios conference room. So Joe, will you please raise your hand? Chris, will you please raise your hand? Where's Chris? Oh, it's Kelly. Okay, sorry. Kelly. All right. So if you want to meet with Kelly, you're going to go with Joe, and the first person that's meeting at 3 o'clock is Lauren. So Lauren should go right now with Joe and Kelly. And then for those of you that don't remember what you signed up for or what time, I made a whole bunch of extra copies for you. So you would have to